Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running and nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Ben Crossman, and everyone out there, I hope that you're having a wonderful day and you are ready for some Computer America. So today on the program, we have, computer and technology news, and that is, of course, brought to you by Computer America. We have a number of stories, looks to be about 15. Doubt we're going to be able to get to all of them, but hey, we are going to try our best, and you know what? We're going to have fun with it. We have a lot of different we have a lot of different topics to talk about, everything from policy to new products and more. Hey, you can of course find that after the program. You can find all these stories at computeramerica.com. We'll have them all up on their own page. So with I think with that being said, let's go ahead and get started with computer and technology news. And again, find us on social media, Computer America. Here we go. So everyone, let's go ahead and start with this one. So I heard about this one a little while ago. It happened just a couple days ago, and it was a pretty interesting story. I don't think it really got the attention it deserved, so we're going to go ahead and go over it again. And this one coming to us first from Vice, and that is Motherboard, which is the tech publication from Vice. And check this one out here. Because of the way that cryptocurrency works. Fun fact, cryptocurrency, if you think of it like a bunch of bank accounts, you can see into everyone else's bank account. That is the kind of the benefit of the way Bitcoin is set up, where you can see massive transfers, you can see wallets, you can see how much money was in each wallet, and yet at the same time you don't know where it's going, or you can see which wallet it's going to, which one it came from. But of course, making a new virtual wallet for cryptocurrency is very, very simple. And of course, they're not associated with anyone, so you could track down the digital wallets, but still making the money anonymous is still pretty easy to do. Which brings us to this story, and this story has to do with, a bunch of money. And I mean like a bunch of money. So let's go ahead and do this. So I'm sorry. This is actually kind of weird. Okay, so that's a little annoying. I've just found a little bug in Vice's thing. So we're going to go ahead and talk about. Here we go. Someone mysteriously sends almost $1 billion in cryptocurrency. Yep, that's right. I think it's like $933 million in cryptocurrency. And of course, cryptocurrency being what it is, let's see, what is the price of, so price of Bitcoin. You're looking at, let's see, price of Bitcoin as of, the time that we're doing this. The price of Bitcoin is currently going at about $9,000. Just to give you an idea of volatility, I mean, even something like this, you're looking at swings of, at one point it was just under $10,000. That was, a little bit earlier last month, and now you're seeing it at about $9,000. Bitcoin, for how established it is among all the cryptocurrency, it is still seeing incredible swings in price over its time. But of course, I think most people remember it from its astronomical rise back in 2017 or 18. I think it was like late 2017, early 2018, but mostly late 2017, when it went all the way up to about $20,000 per Bitcoin. So that's when people heard about it. It's still going on, and hey, this is happening. Someone is, well, moving a whole bunch of it. Check this one out. Big money moves hiding in plain sight tend to be events of some interest among Bitcoiners. They say that Decrypt noted that the sending wallet was recognized as the largest Bitcoin wallet not known to be associated with a business such as an exchange. This means that it could belong to a wealthy private individual, or it could really belong to an exchange, investor, or other business that is simply currently unknown. And that is, again, a feature of what you're looking at with cryptocurrency, where cryptocurrency, you can see everything, you can note everything. I mean, there was a story about a hacker who had a Bitcoin wallet set up and was trying to scam people, and you could look inside the Bitcoin wallet and see exactly how much money was associated with the wallet. And luckily in that case, there was none. But, you're able to kind of track these things. So this is the largest wallet not associated with an exchange. And of course, an exchange is a giant organization, or not even giant, just an organization that will exchange Bitcoin for other cryptocurrency or other fiat currency, what have you. This is the biggest. They said that if the Bitcoin wallet belongs to someone legit, then it's likely the transfer was internal to the business, or it represents a large purchase of goods or services. And they mentioned that regarding of what it was, the business would be expected to pay taxes on any relevant circumstances, saying that if the transfer was not legit, they said that being anonymous and the ability to freely move money without the pre-approval of an authority is the point of Bitcoin. Decentralized currency. That is the gimmick. So that being said, law enforcement is certainly aware of Bitcoin at this stage of the game, and of course he's talking about the fact that they do indeed track these kinds of transfers. So with that being said, so besides the Bitcoin mystery at hand, a transfer of roughly about $1 billion last year became an item of interest. And just weeks ago, cryptocurrency watchers scratching their heads over a small Ethereum transaction that attached millions of dollars in fees. And yeah, that was another interesting story that we heard about, where they were trying to transfer just a couple $100s, I think, and they had millions of dollars in transfer fees, which was very, very strange. So, but at least in this case, you have about 101,000 Bitcoin, again valuing about $900 million being transferred just 3 days ago. Who owns it? Where it's going? What it was used for? No one knows, but it's pretty interesting. It really is. So there you go. There's our first story. Our second story that we're going to cover is something that, just had this conversation the other day about market share. And, well, to a lot of people, it can be flawed on how they actually collect the data. But this one seems about right. If you had to trust your gut feelings, this one seems about right. So this has to do with Chrome and the browser wars, which at this point, calling this a war would be kind of disingenuous to the dominance being shown by Chrome. So check this one out. This is by MSPoweruser.com, and they say that Netmarketshare has released its marketing or its analysis, which we'll go ahead and include that there as well, which is just, of course, all of the data right there raw for you to look at. Pretty interesting. So let's go ahead and talk about this. In this month's report, Windows 10 share is about 58.93%, up from 57.83%, so almost an entire percentage, where Windows 7 shares continue to decline almost an equal amount. Looks like people are finally transferring from Windows 7 up to Windows 10. And surprisingly, somehow managing to resist the temptation of skipping Windows 8 and 8.1. I don't know how they do it. Mac OS share dropped from 9.68% to 9.22%, while Linux share continues its mysterious increase from 3.17 to 3.61. Chrome OS now has only 0.41% share. So if you're wondering how they collect all this, if I had to guess, they are reading the whenever you request information from a website, that website gets a little bit of information about the computer that's requesting it, and that includes things such as your operating system, your browser version. It includes a lot of different metrics about the people connecting to his website. So I'm sure that they have enough partners that they're able to take a good snapshot of the browser, or of course the browser and the desktop market. So with that being said, on the browser side, Chrome has breached 70% market share, which is just incredible. Chrome is certainly dominant, where, Chrome is now officially 70.19% of the entire browser market share. Edge is up slightly from 7.86 to 8.07, which I think many analysts would call that a passing fancy. And, well, Firefox also increased from 7.23 to 7.58. Makes you wonder where the market share was kind of given up if everyone is increasing. But there you go. With 70% share, one wonders at which point Google will be declared to officially have a monopoly on the browser market. So there's a lot of things there. One story that we touched on, and many of you may be receiving alerts about this. If you actually do use Chrome, there's an alert and a pop-up that will say, well, would you like to set a timeline or a kind of like a termination date for your data? You know, do you want it 12 months, 3 months, 1 month, 18 months, however many months you want out for your data to expire, and then Chrome will go ahead and delete all of that browser data. And it's a pretty cool tool. It will really show you how much data these browsers really keep on you. But it just kind of, and this statistic that Chrome has 70% of the market share, it kind of goes to show why they can afford to not just have all that data, but to be able to say, you know, we're going to delete tons and tons of data. And don't get me wrong, a big part of this is probably has to do with the fact that, well, data after 3 months, 12 months, 6 months, whatever, isn't as valuable as data today. And of course, who has the data today? Google. Google has all of the data, or at least 70% of it, whereas every other company that you've heard of hasn't even scratched like 8% of the data. It's it really is pretty incredible. So Chrome has a huge market share that really, I mean, Chrome was already the second most popular browser for a number of years, leading behind Internet Explorer. Internet Explorer pretty much vanished overnight, and Chrome made extra certain that they were able to handle all of the requests, all the different computers out there, make it, people are going to give me hate for this, they made it lightweight enough that any computer can install it and use it, even though I know it's memory hungry. It's incredibly easy to use, and of course ties in with so many other services that that Google offers in its ecosystem, that it's attracted a huge fan base. That at this point, Firefox, Edge, it's totally a race for second. Could Google get in trouble for this? Possibly. And of course by Google, I mean Alphabet, the company that owns Chrome and Google for that matter. There have been past cases where when something such as Windows has overtaken the vast majority of operating systems, you start to wonder what is a majority. And the only thing saving these companies from any kind of investigation is the fact that you are totally free to go download Firefox. You're totally free to go download the new Edge. You are more than welcome to go get a new version of Linux and delete your Windows operating system. That, I think, is the only thing keeping actual monopolies, actual talk of monopolies out, is that, well, you have options. Even if the majority of people don't actually utilize them, you do have options. So if you use Windows 10 and you use Chrome Internet Browser, you are in the vast majority and in good company. So there you go. So that's story number 2. Story number 3. Let's go ahead and just keep this rolling. So many different topics that we can discuss. Let's go ahead and talk about BMW. And some people might find this a little unsettling. Although I have to say, this takes after Tesla. Tesla is the one who pioneered this, and Tesla, well, I saw an article today with a headline saying, it's Tesla's world and we're all just living in it. This may be further proof of that, the way the industry is going. Saying that the author says, I'm all too aware of connected cars aren't a popular topic around these parts, and that's unlikely to change with today's news. BMW is planning to move some features of its new car to a subscription model, something it announced on Wednesday during a briefing on the press for the press on the company's digital plans. It's not an entirely new idea. Tesla has pioneered the idea of shipping vehicles with hardware that can be enabled at the time of purchase or at a later date for a fee. And BMW has done something similar in the past with infotainment features. For a while, if you wanted Apple CarPlay, you had to pay $80 a year until the automaker abandoned the idea. So I will say infotainment is kind of like the stepping stone that a lot of people were first introduced to the idea that, a subscription-based model for something that you already own is starting to enter our lives, and now it's moving on to actual physical pieces of hardware in our car. What do you really own when you purchase the car? So here we go. Those were for digital services. Now, the Bavarian car maker has plans to apply the model to features like heated seats. That's right. If you want to keep your butt warm, you're going to have to pay a little bit of money. BMW says that owners can benefit in advance from the opportunity to try out the product for a trial period of 1 month, after which they can book the respective service for 1 to 3 years. The company also says that it would allow a second owner of the BMW to activate features that the original purchaser declined. So there's your question about the aftermarket and secondhand kind of deal. I guess anyone who owns the car can activate it, not just the original purchaser of the car. Which means that BMW, the company, is going to be involved in the aftermarket sale of cars, because then people, of course, have to call and say, hey, I now own this car, turn on this feature. This is ridiculous. I mean, I understand that Tesla does it, and for those of you who are not aware, or you don't recall exactly what it is that Tesla did, they found it to be a money-saving move to, how do you put this? They built all cars with the same features, the same battery, the same drivetrain, the same, all the different kinds of packages that normally you would go through and kind of say, what does this car have? Tesla instead said all cars of this make, of this model, of this year have all the same features, but they all come standard with, let's say, a 300-mile range in terms of battery operation and driving, all that good stuff. They all have a 300-mile range. They would say at the time of purchasing, or anytime after you purchase the Tesla, you could say, I want to pay for the extended range. I'll put down my $4,000, $2,000, however many thousands of dollars it was, and Tesla would digitally connect to your car over the internet, flip a digital switch. There weren't any modifications that you need to take it into the dealership for. It would simply flip a switch, and your Tesla would then have the capabilities of the more powerful Tesla. People got a little mad at that because essentially you have all the hardware. You're buying the car. You have all the hardware under the hood. Now it's just a matter of, paying that extra money to get the full feature out of the car that you currently own. Tesla has defended that model. Clearly, it's still legal somehow, so it's not going away anytime soon. And now BMW is deciding, well, we can do that, but because we have gas cars and only a limited amount of electric vehicles, what services can we give to people? Here's the problem. They're doing seat warmers, and and first of all, a great announcement in the middle of summer, and I'm of course speaking of the U.S. market, but let's see, when were seats, 10 points in to any listener that knows this before I type it up, but when were seat warmers invented? Remember, this is the feature that they're going to be charging you extra for, so that you can unlock it in your 2021 BMW car. And the answer, by the way, Saab was the first one to offer heated seats as standard equipment. Cadillac was the first to offer it at all. And a GM employee who filed an automobile seat heater patent in April 30th, 1951. So Cadillac, Saab, General Motors, all of them had these things on the book somewhere around 1951. So it's been 60 years, just about. I'm sorry, 70 years. Wow, time sure does fly. It's been almost 70 years since the seat warmer was invented, and now BMW is saying this is going to be a subscription-based model. Of all the things that they could have done, I kind of get the infotainment system. The content being played on the car all the time is new. It's revolving. You can curate new music. You can curate new soundtracks. It's whatever. Seat warmers are seat warmers, and having them behind a paywall just seems like the wrong way to go. So BMW has already started implementing this idea in some of its markets, allowing software unlocking of features like adaptive cruise control or high beam assist. And by the way, those in the United States are usually standard equipment. I guess in other countries, they're making those optional and you have to pay for them. Other features are more whimsical, like the Hans Zimmer designed sound package for electric BMW or adaptive suspension for your M car. Indeed, the company says that its forthcoming iNext will expand the opportunities of personalization, and it's just a matter of, what's going to happen. So with that being said, and a lot of people here in the comment section, they are very, they're very against the idea of BMW doing this. I'm not surprised, but I'm also kind of scratching my head wondering if a lot of these guys were, a lot of these people were going to buy a BMW at all, because it sounds like they've been doing this for a little while now, just with others. So there you go. a lot of consumers don't like it, and I can see why. That something as basic as seat warmers, which have been around for almost 70 years, has become a paid feature in what many would call a BMW a luxury brand. Why is that a paid feature? Why are we having paid schemes at all in vehicles that you fully own and purchase? I don't know. So, there's that article. Let's go ahead and continue on here. Sally forth. Let's go ahead and talk about more products. Although these products you're probably going to like. Vizio is a company that made its name off of cheap televisions. Vizio, when it came time for HD high definition 1080p televisions, Vizio was really the product that most people kind of gravitated to, because obviously they were in the big box stores, your Costco's, your Sam's Clubs, your Walmarts, so on and so forth, and they were cheap. They were cheaper than anyone else, and they had a decent picture. The price to performance ratio was just perfect for Vizio to capture, I guess, kind of the majority of the market. You know, the big chunk in the middle and a lot of the lower ends. Well, Vizio has since sold themselves to a different company. They have they've been working on their product lineup, and check it out. They have brand new products, some of them still hitting that very, very affordable price point, and other ones looks like they're starting to go after some of the more profitable, I'm sure, but also some of the more high-end models. So Vizio is on the precipice of shipping its first OLED television, after having made a name for itself as the gadget maker that produces LED TVs that offer a strong balance between cost and performance. Like I just said. The OLED model will be pricey by most people's standards, but slightly cheaper than the entry-level sets from Sony or LG, which have been the only large-scale suppliers of OLEDs in the United States for a while now. Vizio plans to ship a 55 and a 65-inch model at $1,300 and $2,000. So let's go ahead and talk about that real quick. $1,300 for $1,300 for a 55-inch OLED. Now, obviously, we're going through a tough time. It's a pandemic. People, unfortunately, the people who, a lot of people can't work, and the people who can work, they are being kind of stretched to the brink. And, well, 55-inch for $1,300. I know it's a tough ask, but as far as OLED TVs go, that's a very, very good price. I can't speak to the quality, but the price, and if it is what they say it is, because OLED means something very particular, that's very impressive. So Vizio has a much larger market share in the US than LG or Sony, so it could become the most popular OLED TV maker if these sets are successful as its LED lineup. Most reviewers agree that Vizio's LED TVs are neither the cheapest nor the absolute highest quality, but they are a great middle ground for many enthusiasts. These new OLEDs offer similar specs on paper as the LGs. They have HDMI 2.1 ports, which if you want to dig way back into the archives or search the Computer America YouTube, we had HDMI, the organization, on the show talking about what HDMI 2.1 is. But they have HDMI 2.1 ports, 4K at 120 hertz, pretty good. Not perfect, but 4K at 120 hertz is about what you expect. eARC, FreeSync, and of course HDR. Most of the new perks that you can expect in flagship TVs in 2020. So they'll both be available later this year, not currently available, but hey, pretty good. As for the LED lineup, availability starts now for the V Series, M Series, P Series, and P Series Quantum X line. There you go. So the LED, the thing that made them famous, is still around. The company's 4K LED range, check this out. A 4K LED is now running you about $230. Now, to be clear, 4K, like really, the resolution 4K is not what you really want to be looking for. I think most people would be more than happy with a 1080p picture if it had better specs in other fields. Like most people would say a 1080p picture looks better than a 4K picture if it has, depending on how dark the blacks go or the refresh rate, HDR capabilities, so on and so forth. There's and the brightness and things like that. Yeah. 4K isn't everything, but the fact that you can get a 4K at $230 at all is very, very impressive. So 230 is at the low end. That's probably your 40 inches. And then your 3K, not 4K resolution, no, $3,000 you're looking at for the 85-inch television. 85 inches is a big honkin' television. My goodness. So let's see, P-Series Quantum X is the top-of-the-line LED set that Vizio offers, and sets in that series claim up to 800 nits of full-screen brightness and 792 local dimming zones, as well as HDMI 2.1 ports that can support all of the different data transmissions, right? So if you're wondering what HDMI 2 and HDMI 2.1, like what really separates these, it's more of the refresh rate and the 4K and the flow of information. You have a much better connection between the source material and your television. Although I feel like that's something that we should definitely mention as well. If you're watching Netflix and you don't pay for the 4K, if you are watching basic cable television, much of that is not beamed out in 4K. You have to have content that is sourced at 4K and 120 hertz. Otherwise, you are just wasting money. So maybe, like, clearly they're positioning themselves to some extent for the next gen gaming consoles, which are promising 4K and up to 60 frames per second, although we have heard talk of a 1080p 120 frames per second, which would look good as well. So let's see, I think that's about it. The unusual move, Vizio has dubbed all of these sets its 2021 lineup due to the fact that they were delayed getting to the market because of COVID-19. So they this was supposed to be their 2020 lineup, and instead they're just bumping it back to the 2021 lasting effects of the COVID virus. So that was story number 4. Story number 5. No. Okay. Walmart. Mention them offhandedly, and I think most people recognize Walmart as the place where a lot of people go to shop for a lot of things. Though one thing that they probably don't associate Walmart with is, entertainment. Entertainment in the parking lot. And I'm not talking about those weird fight videos that pop up on the internet all the time. No, I'm talking about Walmart has partnered with a movie company that they're Tribeca. They are going, and by the way, Tribeca runs a lot of the film festivals. They are going to turn Walmart parking lots into drive-in movie theaters. I can't say I hate the idea. I can't say that I love it, but movies have unfortunately sorely been missing from American culture ever since COVID, and if this seems like a good way to do it, hey, then more power to them. So just ahead of the 4th of July weekend, Walmart announced a partnership with Tribeca Enterprises that is set to convert about 160 store locations into makeshift drive-in movie theaters. And remember, 160. So you're looking at a handful of cities, Los Angeles, New York, Miami, Seattle, Arlington, and a few more. So it's not everywhere. Clearly high density populated areas, but it's taking an old idea and making it new again. So the move is an extension of the existing Tribeca-led drive-in program that has already announced much in the same cities. Details are still pretty thin, but the involvement of such a ubiquitous retailer could help extend the program to communities outside of the urban areas. So, Walmart Drive-In follows a number of smaller scale initiatives that have helped the largely extinguished category see a resurgence, as consumers are understandably wary of returning to indoor movie theaters. Jurassic Park recently hit number 1 in the US box office nearly 30 years after its release on the strength of the new trend. So obviously some of these drive-in theaters, no other movies are really being played except for some of the old ones, and yeah. So Walmart screenings are set for August through October, and they mentioned a number of movies that they have already announced at some of their other venues. So you could see movies along the lines of Selena, Straight Outta Compton, Creed, Jerry Maguire, Space Jam, Love and Basketball, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, Back to the Future, Mean Girls, Superbad, Girls Trip, Bridesmaid, Talladega Nights, The Fast and the Furious, Goldfinger, Casino Royale, Inside Out, The Lego Movie, Spy Kids, and more. So yeah, a nice rounded selection. Maybe some of them not the best, but hey, if it's that or nothing, it could get you out of the house and potentially having a fun night at the drive-in. I didn't think I'd be saying that in 2020, but here we are. So there you go. Walmart, drive-in movie theater, maybe. But hey, where are you going to get the popcorn? You can see how Walmart would be interested in this idea as well. So let's see. So with that one, let's go ahead and continue on to... Okay. Let's talk about AT&T. And looks like they were the unfortunate victim of another hack. Not great. Not great. Well, and by hack, this is probably going to be a ransomware situation. So not the biggest hack. Obviously, the exfiltration of data would be one of the worst things for its customers. But a ransomware attack could be, just as crippling and really hurt its business. So AT&T has been sued for a second time over allegations that its staff gave thieves control of a specific individual cell phone number to steal a large chunk of cryptocurrency. So I'm actually mistaken altogether. This is horrible. We just talked about that random $1 billion cryptocurrency transfer. And while this is not exactly the same thing, it does involve almost $2 million in cryptocurrency. It's pretty crazy. Seth Shapiro's $1.9 million claim follows the footsteps of Michael Turpin, who sued the gigantic U.S. cellular network in 2018 for the exact same thing. Staff ported a subscriber's number to a hacker's SIM, which is a so-called SIM swap scam. Say that 3 times fast. And that allowed the miscreant to steal what Turpin claims was about $24 million in cryptocurrency. Makes you wonder why he's not trying to sue them for $24 million instead only $1.9. And again, the point of that was that a lot of these wallets where you keep your cryptocurrency, they can be held in so many different ways. Some people have them on hard drives. Some people have them on physical wallets instead of digital wallets. However you feel is the best way to hide your private key, because everyone is going to have your public key. That is, that's the way to do it. And looks like he had his wallet 2-factor authenticated with his cell phone. So you can see how swapping the SIM card, which allowed all of the contacts, messages, and more to go to the hacker's phone instead of the original phone, you can see how someone could gain access to even a well-secured 2-factor authenticated wallet. So they say that Shapiro is a technology consultant who has worked with the likes of Disney and Showtime. His cryptocurrency stash was his life savings, he said, and one day he suddenly lost service on his AT&T cell phone and went into one of the carrier's stores to figure out what was going on. The store told him to get a new phone and SIM, which he did. However, his lawsuit claimed that within minutes of getting service back and while still in the shop, the thieves struck again. This time, the hackers were able to gain control of his number long enough to use it to gain access to online accounts and siphon digital money from his cryptocurrency wallet. That's a very targeted and a very precise kind of attack. Pretty interesting. Amazingly, just as in the case of Michael Turpin, AT&T allegedly told Shapiro it would put in place special precautions to prevent any SIM hijacking, measures that failed when the pair were targeted. And I think that's the big thing here. AT&T can say that all they want, but it looks like when someone is constantly targeted, and in this case, they knew this gentleman had almost $2 million, and they were going to try as much as they can, as much as they could, to get access to that $2 million, and AT&T failed them. And that is the quote that they have here in the lawsuit. Quote, AT&T failed to implement sufficient data security systems and procedures and failed to supervise its own personnel, instead standing by as its employees use their position at the company to gain unauthorized access to the account in order to rob, extort, and threaten him in exchange for money. Shapiro is going after the telco on several grounds, and including negligence and violations of the Americans Communications Act. AT&T argued Shapiro didn't take his complaint to the carrier before suing, and he is therefore relying on the false information in making his claims. AT&T earlier effort to dismiss the case failed, and at the moment it is challenging 2 of his 7 claims. So, there's so many ways to protect cryptocurrency that I'm sure someone who that I'm actually surprised someone who is so well off when it comes to tech, so learned, being a tech consultant himself, wouldn't have chosen one of the foolproof ways, because there are physical foolproof ways to prevent this. He did have another system in place. It just wasn't good enough for this particular type of attack. So we'll definitely see how AT&T handles this, but there you go. Okay, so with that article's done. We have plenty of time for another one. We have about 7 left. We're actually making pretty good time, folks. So congratulations to everyone and all around. Let's talk about MIT. And by MIT, I mean their racist, misogynistic, bigoted bot that they accidentally created. So, Top Uni takes action after LReg highlights concerns by academics. Before we get started, I just got to say that, I've had this conversation before. This is why sanitizing and collecting data is so important. You can't just have any data, put it in, and call it a day. You need to make sure you have very good, well-curated data. Otherwise, horrible, horrible, horrible things can happen, just like this story. So, special report, MIT has taken offline its highly cited dataset that trained AI systems to potentially describe people using racist, misogynistic, and other problematic terms. The database was removed this week after the register alerted the American Super College. MIT also urged researchers and developers to stop using the training library and to delete any copies, saying that we sincerely apologize. That's the point about artificial intelligence, is that you need a lot of data and tons of it, and hopefully, again, well curated. And looks like in this case, they just tried to scrape the internet at large. And unfortunately, it only takes a little bit of data for the entire data set to really become useless. So the training set built by the university has been used to teach machine learning models to automatically identify and list people and objects depicted in still images. For example, if you show the computer a picture of a park, it might tell you that the children, adults, pets, picnic spreads, grass, and trees present in the snap. So everything that might be included within the park. Thanks to the MIT's cavalier approach when assembling its training set, though, these systems may also label women as not flattering terms for women, and Black or Asian people with derogatory languages. The database also contained close-up pictures of inappropriate pictures and labeled them with an inappropriate word. So again, this seems to be a failure of sanitizing your database. Application, websites, and other products rely on neural networks trained using MIT's dataset may therefore end up using these terms when analyzing photographs and camera footage. The problematic training library in question is 80 million tiny images, which was created in 2008 to help produce advanced object detection techniques. It is essentially a huge collection of photos with labels describing what's in the picture. For example, if something is if it's a picture of a bike, it would go bike, wheel, pedal, spoke. It would go through all the different associated images and essentially try to link these images together so that if it can identify that this in this photo is this object, then logically it's associated with these other images, these other topics, these other labels. There you go. So when a trained neural network is shown a bike, it can accurately predict a bike is present in the snap. And they're saying it's called tiny images because the pictures in the library are small enough for computer vision algorithms in the late 2000s and early 2010s to digest. So really, another point to show here is that a data set that large, it goes to show just how valuable it is that 300,000 images in a single data set was used for almost a decade, because how many other people, how many other companies are spending the time, the man hours, the effort to gather 80 million photos and label them correctly so that, this doesn't happen. And there's a graph a little bit further down. We're not going to show it, but hey, we'll include it in the show notes. It's a finding of their paper. And they said that about in the images, which again, almost 80,000, had about 75,000 odd categories, and a smaller version with only 2.2 million images could be searched and perused online from the MIT website. And with that being said, the keywords included a number of different terms, which are all horrible. Well, not every term is horrible, but the terms that you could think of that are horrible, there might be 1,000 of that photo labeled under those terms. There might be 1,700 of another labeled other terms that were just very inappropriate. And obviously, calling someone a derogatory and racist term, that's not exactly something you want to train your AI to do. At the very least, just like with our kids, you don't want to pass on the bad parts. You just want to pass on the good parts, and not the bias, not the racism, just the facts. So there you go. The key problem is that the dataset includes, for example, pictures of people with their associated racist words, and they said that. Let's see. Needlessly linking everyday imagery to slurs and other offensive language and baking prejudice and bias into future AI models. Saying that a professor of the electrical engineering and computer science at CSAIL said that the lab wasn't aware of these offensive images and labels were present within the data set. They're saying it is clear that we should have manually screened them. For this, we sincerely apologize. We have taken the dataset offline so that the offending images and categories can be removed. So they're going to try to clean this up as best they can. Hopefully this huge data set of almost 80 million photos is not completely wasted. Looks like just a number of offensive terms applied to otherwise innocuous images. Seems to be the problem here. And these were probably submitted by everyday people. You know, you don't collect 80 million photos just with research students. These were probably submitted by everyday people who had their own way of labeling their photos. And yeah, that affected the algorithm for tons and tons and tons of artificial intelligence and machine learning. So with that being said, let's see. Looking through the rest of the article here, giant datasets like ImageNet and 80 million tiny images are also often collected by scraping photos from Flickr or Google Images without people's explicit consent. Meanwhile, Facebook hired actors who agreed to have their faces used in datasets designed to teach software to detect computer-generated fake images. I still do think that technology teaching technology is the best way to go about this. There's only so much you can do without automatic tools and automated systems, but there should be some basic checks and balances, and it goes to show that those checks and balances are not really in place, or at least they're not good enough, if it took over a decade for these prejudices to be identified within the data set. So there you go, saying that you don't need to include racial slurs, pornographic images, or pictures of children. They said doing good science and keeping ethical standards is not mutually exclusive. So yeah, there you go. You don't need that in your research. You can do it without it. But MIT is going to tackle this, and they're going to do their best. This next one, this is actually a really, really cool idea, and it goes to show that Amazon, which is now at this point, I think they own, I don't know, probably the entire world somewhere in there. Amazon is throwing that cash around, and it looks like they bought the rights to another franchise, and they're going to make a television series out of it. I'm not talking about Lord of the Rings, even though I'm super looking forward to the Amazon iteration of Lord of the Rings and the series that they're going to do that, but much in the same vein, although very, very different. Amazon is creating a Fallout series with the creators of Westworld. And Westworld, as far as Westerns go and post-apocalyptic science fiction element kind of deal, man, they hit the nail on the head. So let's go ahead and see this. Amazon's latest sci-fi series will be a familiar one to gamers. The company is partnering with Bethesda to make a show based on the post-apocalyptic Fallout series. Tweets from Bethesda and Amazon confirmed this, and Bethesda also confirmed that the Westworld creator Jonathan Nolan and Lisa Joy are developing the show through their Kilter Films production company. The film series first started back in 1997 and is set decades in the future in an America in the aftermath of a nuclear war. There you go. 1997, back then, it was barely a text-based game, and by that, it barely wasn't a text-based game. You know, there were actual avatars and things like that, but it was mostly text-based. So yeah, it's a long storied franchise, and I think a lot of people are very, very fond of the Fallout series. So Bethesda says that it has been looking for ways to adapt Fallout to a movie or series for the last decade, and the Nolan and Joy's vision for the series is the first that made them think it could be done right. Unsurprisingly, we're not getting any detail about who's involved or what might be involved, but Bethesda press release specifically cites the game's serious and harsh tone, and also sets alongside some ironic humor and oddball B-movie nuclear fantasies. So, Fallout did have a lot of really dark elements to it. But they always managed to keep a little bit of the fun, a little bit of the whimsical, and it was a bit of a darker side to humor, but it did have humor in it. So I'm glad that they are trying to keep those elements. Obviously, we know nothing about the actors, when it will finish shooting, anything like that, but we can certainly hope it is, hope it's soon. I really do. So that was a pretty quick story. Let's go ahead and just jump right into the BBC. This story might take us out here for the end of the show, but it's a pretty big one. And I think I remember reading about this a little while ago. Looks like they're getting into it again. It has to do with the idea of encrypted networks and supposedly private networks being hacked into. Saying that, and again, this is from BBC News, saying that a top secret communication system used by criminals to trade drugs and guns has been successfully penetrated, says the National Crime Agency. There you go. The NCA has worked with forces across Europe and the UK's biggest and most significant law enforcement operation, where major crime figures were among over 800 Europe-wide arrests after messages in encro chats were intercepted and decoded. More than 2 tons of drugs, several dozen guns, and 54 million pounds in suspected cash have been seized. Pound, of course, being like the sterling and not the unit of weight. So there you go. So while the NCA was part of the investigation, it was initially and led by the French and Dutch police and also involved Europol. They told at a press conference in The Hague that the hacking of the network had allowed the disruption of criminal activity, including violent attacks, corruption, attempted murders, and large-scale drug transportation. The NCA says that Europe-wide operation, which lasted over 3 months and involved police forces across the UK, have led to about 746 UK arrests. Very impressive. The Metropolitan Police Commissioner, whose force made 171 arrests and received $13.3 million in cash, described it as a game changer. It's a game changer for now. Obviously, by them putting this out there, I think that they have said, we've caught everyone that we're going to catch. We can go ahead and publish this. As soon as this happens, a new encrypted service will pop up and take its place. I'm not saying that to be on the side of the criminals or the drug traffickers or the arms dealers. I'm saying that as it's just a matter of fact. There are always replacements, and case in point, you can look at things like the Pirate Bay. So they said that this was a criminal marketplace, and estimates 60,000 people, among them about 10,000 in Britain, subscribed to the France-based EncroChat, which has now been taken down. So you can't even use the service anymore. And just to be clear, they arrested 800 people, but they estimated about 60,000 people actually use the service. And there's a number of reasons, especially with the social uprisings happening all over the world. There are a number of reasons to encrypt your chat, although one of them also tends to be to hide crime. But there are legitimate reasons to sign up for the service as well. Customer had access to features such as self-destructing messages that deleted from the recipient's device after a certain length of time. There was also a panic wipe where all the data on the device would be deleted by entering a 4-digit code from the lock screen, and the NCAA says that the messaging system had been using as a criminal marketplace to coordinate the supply of Class A drugs across the world and import weapons including assault rifles, submachine guns, shotguns, pistols, and hand grenades. Boy, someone was going to have some fun over there. My goodness, that's a lot of contraband. Gangs also believed to have been using the handheld devices to plot attacks on rival groups, plan ways of enforcing drug debts, and arrange for money to be laundered. Just seems like a whole bunch of really bad people. So chat users realized too late, and they mentioned that they sold encrypted phones with the guarantee of being anonymous with a range of special features. The phones themselves cost about €1,000 each, with a subscription of about €1,500 for 6 months. They said that France police had discovered some of EncroChat's servers were located in the country, and that it was possible to put a technical device in place to access the messages. So essentially, they did what America is worrying about China, where they physically were able to get to the servers and they were physically able to intercept the data. How they were able to decrypt it, I guess it was not end-to-end encryption. So, yeah. This looks like that's a huge problem. But I'm glad that they caught him. I'm glad that all that stuff is off the streets, and good job to the police force for being able to capture all those people. So everyone, that's about it for today. I want to thank you so much for tuning into Computer America. That is it. Tomorrow on the program, we should have Ralph Bond. Check the calendar here real quick. No, actually, we're taking tomorrow off, Independence Day. Everyone, have a great 4th of July. Have a great day. Thank you so much. Thank you for tuning into Computer America. Have a good one. Bye, everyone.